one of the first questions that we get quite a lot are, what are some of the things that a B-grade health professional may tell an unsuspecting buyer that's the plain wrong, and why?
Well, first of all, thanks for the question, Megan. So I think the first part really is just baseless promises. Oftentimes if we're promising instant relief from a pain or a problem, or a complete cure as well, that can't realistically be delivered, this to me is plain wrong, because you're setting yourself up as a practitioner, healthcare practitioner, to fail, but also you're setting the wrong expectations with your clients as well. Mm-hmm. And I think the second part of that is a fallacy, really, that if you're told everyone your age just gets that particular health problem, whatever that may be for you, or that they get pain or arthritis or whatever it is, and that you should just not do the activity that you enjoy anymore, or that you should just learn to live with it. I think that's wrong, because what it does is when it becomes our identity, our diagnosis becomes our identity, we then just don't do those things that we love anymore, and that completely changes the trajectory of our quality of life, and effectively we go down in a downward spiral, which kind of is how people, it's that mind-body connection, is how people get depressed, more anxious, they don't do as much stuff with their friends or their family, and so that to me is why it's plain wrong, because a lot of the time there is something that can be done, but I think it's having that open, honest, frank conversation and finding out why and what's happening first.
Mm-hmm. What are 3 things a prospect thinks they need when seeing a chiropractor, but they actually don't, and why?
Well, I think one of the first ones would actually be lots of time spent. I think the most important thing with regards to time initially is, yes, there needs to be a thorough exam. Yes, there needs to be a thorough consultation. We need to know exactly what the problem is, why it's happening, how long it's been there for, is it correctable, how long is it going to take, what that person can do to help themselves, and if they do decide to work with us, what does that look like from an investment standpoint, all up front before anything happens. Lots of time needs to be spent with that person versus actually just getting a result. I don't know about you, Megan, but mm-hmm. I would rather get a result in half the time than spend 30, 40, 50 minutes with someone getting it done. But I think it's also being present with the person. Mm-hmm. And I think people can feel that when you are, because it's really what people feel and that's when they feel cared for. And I think if you can create that in a short space of time and still get the result, then it's a win-win, because that practitioner is respecting your time mm-hmm. as well as theirs. I think the second one would also be all the different gadgets that you see that are promoted to us on social media. You got the back scratchers and the posture. What are they called? With the posture
I've seen the ones
harnesses.
With the metal rods too that you kick your back on.
Those, and then you get the massage guns and all sorts of different things. I think a lot of that you just don't need when seeing a chiropractor, and why is because if the chiropractor or whoever it is you go to see knows exactly what they're doing, and they've trained that skill, then you just don't need a lot of that other stuff. Mm-hmm. One of our chiropractors here, Harrison, said yesterday the Bruce Lee quote, and I probably won't do a really good job. I fear not the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. And I think that can apply to anything that you do, particularly when you're seeing someone for your healthcare. Mm-hmm. If those healthcare professionals have practiced and they train regularly to get better, to better serve you as the client, as the patient, then that's why I believe you don't need all of those other gadgets and gizmos mm-hmm. that actually a lot of the time don't really do anything long term. And this come from Harrison actually. one of our chiropractors here at Life Balance, and he basically said, look, the expectation to come into this kind of medical style setting where you've got these beige chairs, this waiting room vibe, this kind of cold waiting room vibe, like these pointless magazines on the kind of desk that have been there for like 7 months, just kind of creating a picture here, wearing the gowns, it's cold, versus, they don't need any of that, versus open community space, lots of plants, hey, let's make you a coffee or a hot drink, clothes that are comfy, wear clothes that are comfy for you, greeted with a smile, and also with a pleasure to serve you on the day. And so those are really my 3 things that I believe a potential client does think they need, but they don't actually need.
What are some of the things that a quality healthcare professional should offer as part of their solution but often don't, and why?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get that one a lot. I think, look, the ability to take investigations like digital x-rays, if clinically required for that case, before any particular care is given, particularly if that person has had a complicated case, they've not resolved with usual care within a period of time of about 4 to 6 weeks. Either they've seen another chiropractor, or they've been to the physio, or they've seen an osteo, or they've been to their GP, they've tried all the different normal routes. I think that's very important, because it will allow you to get a clear understanding of what's actually happening underneath, and matching that with what you find from your examination findings, and allows your healthcare professional to be safer with you and be more specific as well when it comes to your treatment and your care. I also think as well a personalized care plan, up front before any treatment starts, like whereby the client's told in non-jargon exactly like what the problem is, can it be corrected, if so, how much can it actually be corrected, how long is this going to actually take for my body to heal, what does it involve, and what does that look like from an investment standpoint if I choose to proceed, but then also no obligation, no hard feelings if I don't start. I think sometimes that doesn't happen, and it's like I just go into a place, like it's weird, like I went into a place fairly recently just as an experiment, and it was like I went in, I did like a form which was just like a brief overview, and then it was like straight to treatment. And it was like, what, like you're not even going to kind of ask me properly, you're not going to do like a proper exam. Like in my mind, I was just thinking this in my mind, and I got out of there and I was like, it was okay, but it wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was cared for, or like I felt like they really heard me or really knew what was going on. And I think a lot of people can feel like that. And I think the third one is really just being a facilitator, empowering the clients to become an active care partner within their journey, because versus just being passively treated for a condition. So I think, look, the main things are there's always something that can be done. Whether that's with professional help or not, the main 2 things are, look, don't just rest like it's a myth. The main thing is, particularly when you have a problem, is to keep moving. You got to keep moving it, and be aware of your posture as well, for sure.
What are 3 expectations that prospects have that lead them to making bad buying decisions, and why?
I think the first one is going to be expectations around being treated on the first visit. Why? Because this leads to the mentality or thinking quick fixes, one and done. And what ends up happening there is that it just comes back, oftentimes, and it never really gets to the bottom of the problem long term. You've heard of, I've seen that many times in my own practice, is like someone's been somewhere else and they've been fixed within 1 or 2 sessions, but then it's come back 6 months later, 9 months later, and then they're in our practice. It's like, well, was it really ever fixed? And so And was the expectations set clear enough in the beginning that, look, maybe this isn't fully correctable, maybe this is manageable, but we're going to do it in the right way and get it to the point where you live a really good quality of life. And so I think that's different for everyone, but yeah, definitely being treated on the first visit. That's just my opinion. Expecting as well to get fixed in one session for a problem that's maybe been there for many years on and off. I think oftentimes as human beings we minimize our problems. I think it's human nature. Like, you know, the amount of times I've heard from our clients initially, like say to me, oh yeah, I got this thing, these headaches have been there for like 2 weeks. And then we dig a bit deeper and we've built a bit of trust with that person. And they say, actually, no, yeah, I've been having headaches since I was 16. As they open up and they become, you know, we've got that relationship with them. And it's like, oh, okay, so it's been actually 20 years.
Not 2 weeks.
Yeah. But, you know, this leads, and the reason I say that is because it leads them to frustration, you know, because they go through these endless cycles of like different health professionals. They jump from one professional to another and to another without really ever kind of correcting it long term. And then I think the third one is just expecting quality care to be given at like bargain prices. Like it's not, you know, it's not Wilco or anything like that. Like there's nothing wrong with getting a bargain, but I think if you buy cheap, you're going to get cheap. You know, and as Warren Buffett likes to say, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And so that's a big one, in my opinion.